Hello, Bachcho. Welcome to Hello Biology. This is the fourth lecture of the chapter, Principles of Inheritance and Variations. We have now understood the law of dominance and the law of segregation in last two lectures. Let us move to Mendel's final law, the law of independent assortment. Let us now focus on the law itself, law of independent assortment. According to Mendel, when two pairs of contrasting traits are present together, the alleles of one pair segregate independently of the alleles of the other pair during gamete formation. In simple words, the inheritance of one trait does not influence the inheritance of another trait. As a result, different combinations of alleles are formed in the gametes. Later, during fertilization, these alleles combine randomly in the offspring. Because of this random rearrangement, not only parental combinations, but also new combinations of traits appear in the next generation. This is exactly what Mendel observed in his Dihybrid Cross experiment, where new combinations such as round green and wrinkled yellow seeds appeared in the F2 generation. From these observations, Mendel concluded that different pairs of alleles assort independently during gamete formation and recombine randomly during fertilization. This principle is known as the law of independent assortment. There is one important point we must remember. Mendel proposed that different pairs of genes assort independently during gamete formation. However, scientists later discovered that this is not always true. When two or more genes are present on the same chromosome, they tend to be inherited together from one generation to the next. This phenomenon is called linkage. In such cases, the genes do not assort completely independently as Mendel had proposed. Therefore, linkage is considered an exception to the law of independent assortment. So, students, remember, genes present on the same chromosome may be inherited together. This is called linkage. Because of linkage, independent assortment does not occur in every situation. That is why linkage is regarded as the major exception to Mendel's law of independent assortment. We will study linkage in detail in the upcoming lectures. An interesting fact about Mendel's law of independent assortment is that it was later recognized by Correns as Mendel's second law. Let us understand one of the reasons why Correns called the law of independent assortment Mendel's second law. The answer lies in the logical sequence of inheritance. First, we need to understand what happens to the two alleles of a single gene. This is explained by Mendel's first law, the law of segregation. According to the law of segregation, the two alleles of the same gene separate during gamete formation, so each gamete receives only one allele. Once we understand the behavior of a single gene, we can move one step further and ask an important question. What happens when two or more different genes are present together? This is where the law of independent assortment comes in. The law of independent assortment extends the idea of segregation to different genes and explains that the alleles of different genes assort independently during gamete formation. In simple words, the law of segregation explains the inheritance of one gene, while the law of independent assortment explains the inheritance of two or more genes together. Therefore, independent assortment is a natural progression after segregation. First, Mendel explained how one gene behaves, and then he explained how different genes behave simultaneously. That is why Correns and the other rediscoverers considered independent assortment to be Mendel's second law. So students, remember this sequence. First law, segregation, behavior of a single gene. Second law, independent assortment, behavior of two or more different genes. This logical progression is one of the main reasons why independent assortment was placed after segregation in Mendel's laws of inheritance. That's all for today's lecture, students. Today we explored Mendel's laws of independent assortment, and we already understood how Mendel explained the transmission of traits from one generation to the next. Finally, we discussed linkage as an important exception to the law of independent assortment. I hope this lecture helped you understand the foundation of classical genetics in a simple and easy way. Thank you for learning with Hello Biology. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the fascinating world of biology. See you in the next lecture. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.